This video is about Mesopotamia and world politics complex. Mesopotamia is the oldest known civilization to man, the origin place of writing, astronomy, and law, and the first ever society to record history. It is undoubtedly a notorious reference for historians and scholars when tracing back the origins of international relations. The name Mesopotamia comes from Greek origins, literally translating to between two rivers. The geographical attribute to the name holds true value, as this region was located between the famous rivers Tigris and Euphrates. Besides its distinguishing and unparalleled geographical advantages, Mesopotamia was also known as the Cradle of Civilizations, best understood as a region that produced multiple empires and civilizations, rather than any single civilization. Its title as the Cradle of Civilizations can mainly be attributed to two of its many accomplishments. First, the rise of the city as we recognize it as an entity today. And second, the invention of writing. Mesopotamian history and the development of its civilization is best understood in the division of periods, due to its long-standing existence, ranging from the 4th century BC to its collapse in the 7th century AD. With the Islamic conquest of 651 CE, the history of ancient Mesopotamia ends. Generally speaking, when people speak about the North and South Mesopotamia, there is a clear association of the Akkadians in the south and the Sumerians in the north. Sumerians and Akkadians dominated Mesopotamia from the beginning of written history to the fall of it, shaping a big part of its narrative. Before getting into explaining the interactions that took place within Mesopotamia, it's important to contextualize ourselves with the international system of the time. When talking about international relations, it is often portrayed to be a post-Westphalia world configuration, a world where the concept of a state had just begun to form. And where politics became defined by the notions of sovereignty, territoriality, and recognition. Around the time of the Mesopotamian civilization, the concept of a nation had not yet been formed, so when we talk about interactions that took place in the context of a Mesopotamian civilization, we should correctly refer to world politics complex. This concept is coined by Professor Claudio Cioffi-Revilla. On to lingua franca, written accounts and records of trade. Mesopotamia was, as seen, a larger geographical area, given that the different societies were connected through different aspects that in some ways brought them closer together. Examples of such is language and written accounts. There were 3 common languages in ancient Mesopotamia: Sumerian, Babylonian, and Assyrian, that today form Akkadian. These were similar to today's languages Hebrew and Arabic. Akkadian was not only an oral form, but they also had a written form of the language. Written accounts meant a huge impact regarding the relations to the neighboring societies and influenced each other through different aspects, for example in terms of administration, trade and policy. The written language was first developed in the Sumerians in around 3500 to 3000 BCE. This system is known as cuneiform, which was a technique performed on clay tables. Writing helped the civilization become powerful. As they kept record, they could also make plans for the future. The Amarna Letters are one of the earliest examples of diplomacy in world history. In the 14th century BCE, states of the Near East, Egypt, Hatti, Mitanni, Babylonia, and Assyria formed an international society, a great powers club, with conventional forms of diplomacy and settled rules of protocol. In principle, they corresponded on the basis of my brother between kings. One of the main things that these entities used to write each other about was gold. For Assyrian kings, gold was a reflection of friendship. If your purpose is graciously one of friendship, send me much gold. For Mitanni, it was a sign of love and affirmation of close alliances. But besides this symbolism, Mitanni wished to use Egypt and its gold as a means of acquiring status in the international community. May my brother send me much gold. May my brother show his love for me, that my brother greatly glorified me before my country and before my foreign guests. For Babylonia, gold was just a means of showing their friendly relations to the international community. If gold is plentiful, send me as much as your ancestors sent. But if it is scarce, send me half of what your ancestors sent. On to physical technologies, the region of Mesopotamia, including the rivers, is known as the Fertile Crescent. This land was and still is a very fertile land, and this made it to be a very important zone for agriculture and helped it become a sustainable place for communities to live in. But climate change at the time affected the region so much that it dried up. This resulted in hunter-gatherers moving, but in Mesopotamia people were able to find a way to survive and adapt to it. Women, whose role was to gather, store and prepare seeds and fruits for eating, started planting the seeds that they were cultivating along the rivers. This development actually helped increase the population. The development in agriculture made it impossible for the region to survive without managing the water coming from Tigris and Euphrates. Mesopotamian reed boats are known to be the first boats ever, and they were built as means to travel long distances along the two rivers to facilitate trade. The dependence Mesopotamia had on the two rivers shaped its economic and political life. It's important to have control over the waters as it helped economically and also generated interstate conflicts. In concluding matters, it is safe to say that the history of Mesopotamia involved revolutionary inventions such as time, math, boats, the wheel, and maps. The two main accomplishments, however, was the rise of the city as we know it today and the invention of writing. Historians and scholars often look at Mesopotamia as the origin of international relations, or world politics complex, as explained earlier on. This video seeks to emphasize yet again that the term international relations is used as a post-Westphalia world configuration. Thus, when going back to the notion set before Westphalia, we must not speak of a term used today, but rather use a term accurate and appropriate for that time. In terms of language, the Akkadian language developed in Mesopotamia became crucial for all, as it allowed people to write down and plan their future. This also gave the neighboring states the opportunity to connect with each other. Thus, the language became a bridge for international connectivity. As a result, the neighboring states started trade and diplomatic interactions. In addition, this video seeks to reiterate the importance of the two rivers Tigris and Euphrates. The two rivers changed the economic and political life of the region, as well as it generated the interstate conflicts. The importance of the two rivers is also symbolically present in the meaning of Mesopotamia itself, between two rivers. Lastly, bringing back the importance of the Amarna Letters yet again, as they are to be seen as the very first example in history as actions of diplomacy. The Amarna Letters were sent between kings from different policies supporting one another and their conflicts. The language used in the letters was quite undiplomatic in terms of being very straightforward. If we compare this way of proceeding diplomatic actions as of today, this differentiation makes us wonder, which diplomatic measure is more efficient? Appeasement or being straightforward? We would like to conclude that, seeing the international politics of today, appeasing while being straightforward, going straight to the facts, is the best political measure.